Daniel had seen her there for 3 nights running, curled up on the hard wooden bench at the train station, her few belongings clutched against her chest like a shield. She wore a faded calico dress that had once been fine, and her long black hair was neatly braided despite her circumstances. Each night he'd pass through, picking up supplies or dropping off the ranch's mail, and each night she'd been there, her eyes open and watchful even as she pretended to sleep. On the fourth night, he couldn't walk past anymore. He stood there in his dusty work clothes, hat in his hands, trying to find the right words. She was awake, watching him with the cautious alertness of someone who'd learned to expect the worst from strangers. "Ma'am," he started, then stopped, feeling foolish. He tried again. "I've seen you here a few nights now. Don't mean to pry, but this station closes in an hour, and it's going to be cold tonight." He paused, reading the wariness in her dark eyes. "Come home with me if you want. I've got a ranch about 6 miles out. There's a spare room, no strings, no expectations. Just a warm bed and a proper meal." She studied him for a long moment, and he could see her weighing the risks. A native woman alone with a white rancher, he understood why she'd be hesitant. "Why would you help me?" she asked, her English perfect, but accented with something musical. "Because I'd want someone to help my sister if she was in your situation," Daniel said honestly. "And because it's the right thing to do. Your sister?" There was something in her voice, a flicker of connection. "She died 3 years ago. Pneumonia. She was stubborn, wouldn't rest even when she was sick." His throat tightened. "I think about all the time strangers must have seen her struggling and looked away." "I don't want to be someone who looks away." The woman's expression softened slightly. She gathered her small bundle of carpetbag and a worn shawl and stood. "I am Winona. If you try anything, I have a knife and I know how to use it." Daniel almost smiled. "Fair enough. I'm Daniel, and I've got a rifle, but it's for coyotes, not people." The ride to the ranch was quiet, both of them sitting in the wagon as stars emerged overhead. Daniel didn't push for conversation, sensing she needed time to trust that this wasn't a mistake. When they arrived, he showed her to the small bedroom that had been his sister's, with clean sheets and a window that looked out over the prairie. "There's water for washing, and I'll have breakfast ready at dawn," he said from the doorway. "Lock the door if it makes you feel safer." Over the following days, Winona slowly emerged from her shell. She insisted on earning her keep, helping with cooking and mending, tending the small garden, even feeding the chickens. Daniel learned that she'd been educated at a mission school, that her family had been relocated 3 times, that she'd been traveling to find an aunt in Kansas City only to arrive and discover the woman had died 2 months prior. With no money to return home and no home to return to, she'd been stranded at that station, trying to figure out her next move. "You could stay," Daniel said one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "I mean, longer than just until you figure things out. This ranch is too much for one person, and I could use the help. I'd pay you fair wages." Winona turned to look at him, surprise in her eyes. "You'd trust me with your home? You've been here 2 weeks. You work harder than any hand I've hired. You're honest, you're kind to the animals, and you make better coffee than I ever could." He smiled slightly. "Besides, this place has been too quiet since Sarah died. It needs life in it again." "People in town will talk," she said quietly. "They already stare when I go with you for supplies. Let them talk." "I've never cared much for gossip." Daniel met her eyes. "But I want you to stay because you want to, not because you have nowhere else to go. You deserve more than being someone's charity case." Something shifted in Winona's expression. "What if I stayed because I'm starting to care about this place? About the routine we've built, the conversations we have, the way you listen when I talk about my people's stories?" She hesitated. "What if I stayed because when I imagine leaving, my chest feels tight?" Daniel's heart began to race. "And I'd say I feel the same way. That's somewhere between teaching you to ride Bella and you teaching me to identify medicinal plants. I started hoping you'd never leave." Winona reached out and took his hand, her fingers trembling slightly. "I lost everything. My family's land, my sense of belonging, my certainty about who I was supposed to be. I thought I'd lost my future too." "Maybe this is your future," Daniel said gently. "Maybe it's ours." They married quietly that autumn. with the local pastor who asked no questions about backgrounds or bloodlines, only about commitment and love. The town did talk, as Winona had predicted. Some refused to do business with Daniel anymore. But others, seeing how happy they were, seeing Winona's grace and intelligence, began to soften. She started teaching the local children to read, both white and native, in a small schoolhouse Daniel helped build. She became known for her healing knowledge, helping sick animals and people alike. When their son was born, Daniel held him with shaking hands, overwhelmed by the weight of new life and new responsibility. Winona watched him with tired, joyful eyes. "What should we name him?" Daniel asked. "Something that honors both worlds," Winona said. "Samuel, after your father. And his middle name will be Chayton, which means falcon in my language. He'll need both strengths to navigate the world we're bringing him into." Years later, when their home was filled with children's laughter and the ranch had grown prosperous, people sometimes asked Daniel how he'd found such happiness. He'd always think back to that night at the station, to the moment he'd chosen to offer kindness instead of looking away. "I saw someone who needed help," he'd say simply. "And she gave me more than I ever gave her. She gave me a reason to be better, a partnership built on respect, and a love I didn't know I was looking for." Winona would smile when she heard him say this, remembering the cowboy who'd offered refuge without demands, who'd seen her humanity when others saw only difference. She'd been sleeping at a train station, lost and alone, when a stranger had said 5 simple words that changed everything. "Come home with me if you want." Sometimes, she reflected, fate arrives in dusty boots and a worn hat, offering not grand promises but simple kindness. And sometimes that's enough to build a lifetime on.